So we have Shane McMahon and Tony Khan meeting together, which is something I did not expect that would ever happen here. Dom, what do you think of this?
If Vince McMahon were still alive, this would never happen.
Right? If he wasn't killed off.
Right? This is art imitating life, right? Good. Go ahead. What were you going to say there?
If he wasn't killed off by popular opinion.
Right? Metaphorically, he's been eliminated. This is life imitating art. If you remember when the McMahons bought WCW, it was Shane McMahon who became the owner of WCW during the takeover there. This is now the McMahons basically being kicked out of TKO Holdings, at least from a management standpoint. I mean, Paul Levesque is still married into the family. Stephanie McMahon Helmsley was Stephanie McMahon Levesque. Helmsley was her on-screen character name. Was part of WrestleMania, came out to say hello. But they're out of management, basically. They may still have some stock there. But for guys who have an itch to get back into running a wrestling company, what do? Well, they're going to the number 2 guys at the moment. This is fun. This is the kind of thing that can only help, because AEW is clearly the number 2 to WWE's number 1. If something like this could maybe even the playing field a little more, I think that might be really cool.
Yeah, I think it's at least very interesting. It'd be something that would only be a benefit. And, you know, I've seen this online before, but it's kind of a Hail Mary, but it's a Hail Mary that seems like a good risk, right? Especially for Tony Khan trying to get a TV deal with Warner Brothers. And I think it's really interesting to have this dynamic where the McMahons are cut out of WWE. It's owned by TKO. They sold it. And maybe they are getting involved with AEW suddenly. And, you know, hey, I know Vince, a lot of people say a lot of different things about him, but he sure knows how to run a wrestling company.
The important thing is this is not Vince. If this were Vince, this would be toxic.
Yeah.
This is Shane O'Mac. Now, Shane perhaps doesn't have the reputation, especially since he was very conveniently, I don't say that to be conspiratorial, he had just kind of stepped away from WWE when all of this rather unsavory stuff with Vince went down.
Yeah.
It was Stephanie who was kind of tainted as the CEO at the time, stepping in for Vince being let go, and then Vince coming back and kicking Stephanie aside, and Stephanie wanting to resign, perhaps seeing what was coming down the pike there. Shane was out of it, though. So Shane might be clean from a reputation standpoint.
Yeah.
This is the best of both worlds, right? This is the McMahon name and the McMahon legacy of building business without the Vince McMahon tarnish.
That's a good point. But I do think that, you know, with Shane probably comes a little bit of Vince somewhere, somehow, right?
A little bit. But Shane, I think Shane wants to be his own dude here.
Yeah.
Tony and I were connected through a mutual friend, and we had a great meeting. We talked about many things, but mostly about our shared love for the business and the rewards and challenges of working with family. I congratulated him on the 5-year anniversary of AEW and look forward to how he evolves the business moving forward. He basically sent this statement to Bully Ray. So he's still got some connections. How about Bully Ray being the medium here, the conduit? Bully Ray well connected within pro wrestling here.
Bully Ray's done some work with WWE too.
He has. He's done work with WWE. He's done work with TNA. He was in WCW and ECW. I mean, other than NWA, if there's a major wrestling promotion in the U.S., Bully Ray's been involved in it.
Yeah, he's all over the place.
Yep. He was recently, was he involved in WrestleMania in some sort of Philadelphia street fight?
Yeah, he did something.
Special ref. Bubba Ray Dudley came back.
Yeah.
So this is good. Busted Open After Dark with Bully Ray. Read the statement. So this is where we're going. It's rumors crazy, but that's what Cheap Heat is about. It's the stuff that takes place outside of the ring that is interesting. It involves some of the same people, and it may have consequences for what we eventually see in the ring. This is it, man. Shane McMahon and Tony Khan hanging out somewhere in a boardroom, discussing the business and family business and the possibilities moving forward. Hey, man, it's cheap. It's heat.
One more question. Do you
Sure.
think that the picture is a work or a shoot?
I think they had a real meeting and had a real conversation. And I think that obviously someone knew about it and is social media savvy and walked in and said, I got to get a picture of you two.
The picture for Tony is quite unflattering. He's just like got his finger in his eye, but it does look realistically like they said, hey, took a picture and ran out, which I guess that's probably what you want it to look like too.
Yeah. I mean, it's not like they're introducing Shane McMahon as a new board member. It's two guys hanging out in a room. I mean, Shane O'Mac probably got up to stretch his legs there. He's kind of standing behind the chair.
And one more,
go ahead.
One more thing about Shane. The answer was so corporate jargon non-answer. Like we had a productive meeting where we were like, he might as well say like we were discussing synergies.
Great. Yeah, he didn't say synergy, but this is perfect. Then he's ready to join the board. Then, right? He's got his corporate speak down pat.
Yeah, it's a whole lot of nothing in a statement.
Yep. It's like, hey, we hung out. It was intentional. AEW, speaking of stuff that might be a shoot or a work, All In has this is 2 years in a row that something is happening around All In that involves, quote unquote, some sort of fight backstage between wrestlers. Britt Baker, an altercation incident with Alicia Atout and the newly crowned American champion Maxwell Jacob Friedman, MJF. Apparently, Britt Baker suspended indefinitely. She's supposed to compete for Mercedes Moné's TBS championship at All In. Both Dave Meltzer and I think this was corroborated by Sean Ross Sapp of Fightful Selects, that there was some sort of incident backstage. Alicia Stout, who's MJF's girlfriend, overheard something in the women's locker room, went and tattletale to MJF, and it's children, isn't it?
Yeah, it sounds very stupid, whatever it is.
Right.
Even like the more you drill into it, you're like, wow, this is really stupid.
What do you think? Is this real or is this just a work to, since controversy worked so well last All In?
I do want to say one thing. So this is actually the third straight All In.
Okay, fill me in, please.
Because there was the brawl with between the Young Bucks, Kenny Omega, CM Punk, and like CM Punk's friend and his dog or whatever that was. That was the actual fight. Then the next year was Jack Perry and CM Punk. And now this is the third year in a row where there's just been something kind of lingering around. And this looks like MJF with Dr. Britt Baker. I'm going to go outside the box here, and I'm going to take a stab at something that's unique. I think it's a work.
Okay.
I think that this is a work and not actually happening, only because it feels like they leaned a lot into this stuff as much as possible. Where they leak this information, and I think they want to start dabbling with leaking fake stuff.
All right,
I'm going way outside the box. I'm thinking crazy.
Okay, that's not. It's pro wrestling. That's not way outside the box to say that something that was leaked to media was a work.
And
that's been going on forever, right?
And I can point back to me being right at a later date with a crazy conspiracy theory, which that's what I'm kind of banking on here.
Well, then just to cover all the bases, I will say this is a shoot.
Oh, all
just
right.
So whatever happens, you can make a clip of whichever one of us was right and just pretend that like both of us were right.
Yes. Perfect.
Awesome. There is a fly on my screen right now that I'm very glad isn't showing up on the screen share. Holy mackerel, is this cheap. Hey, speaking of cheap and heat, Jesse Ventura made his way back to Raw this week, was greeted by Paul Levesque. CM Punk, it looks like hell froze over again, and there he is shaking hands with CM Punk. Jesse Ventura has been out of WWE for even longer than CM Punk was. I think his last time doing something here was 2009. We've got a story from WrestleZone here about it, and they go through it. Elected into the Hall of Fame in 2004, later to appear on Raw in 2009. He has been absent from the company in recent years. It's been 15 years. This is another person who said maybe this was something related to, well, now that Vince isn't there anymore, we can talk. There's been a lot of that. There's been a lot of people just breathing a sigh of relief that Vince isn't there anymore, and they're willing to talk again. This, of course, was very convenient. It was held at the Excel Energy Center in St. Paul, Minnesota this past Monday. And of course, Jesse Ventura is the former mayor of a city in Minnesota and then became governor of Minnesota. So he's kind of known in those parts.
Yeah, for sure.
What say you about this? Good news, bad news that Jesse Ventura has this reunion here with talent in WWE. Does he have anything to offer on screen or behind the scenes, or is this just like a nostalgia thing that you put up a couple of photos and you hug and then you just move on?
It could be a nostalgia thing, where he comes back as a legend. He's on a Legends contract. Maybe they'll put some merch out. He'll get a percentage of the merch. And if he's later in his life, rather than leave on a bad foot, it's good to kind of,
and just didn't want to air dirty laundry. But for whatever, tell us in the chat, tell us in the comments. Do you know why Jesse Ventura in WWE wanted to publicize it?
Right. Yeah. No, it's cool. I mean, you'd rather have him involved than not involved. He, always had a pretty good. People know who he is. He obviously was, big in politics after the WWE, so it'd be good to have him involved in any way, shape, or form, rather than just having people pushed out and never talked to again.
So, do you remember Jesse Ventura from wrestling commentary, acting in Predator? I ain't got time to bleed.
No, I didn't know he was in Predator.
Politics, or post-politics when he was just sort of a social commentator. Jesse Ventura has done a lot of things in a lot of different capacities. Tell us in the comments, in the live chat, if you're with us right now, what do you remember Jesse Ventura from? My introduction to him was wrestling commentary, and I always kind of remember that. But I do remember that he's been outspoken about a lot of issues, even post having a government official career. So I remember Jesse for just being kind of a guy who's involved in wrestling rather than a guy who I think is locked into wrestling.
Yeah, he's done a lot of other stuff. Obviously, he's the governor of Minnesota. And then I've seen him on podcasts and stuff that are pretty big. So, I mean, I don't necessarily think that it almost might be that the WWE would want someone like Jesse Ventura than Jesse Ventura needs a WWE. Who knows?
Yeah, there's going to be benefits to each, but I think that this is, like you were mentioning, this is part of WWE's public face where they're showing how they're mending some fences and welcoming guys back. And it's good for the fans. I don't think there's anybody out there who's going to be like, oh, Jesse Ventura's hugging Paul Levesque. I'm done with WWE. Right. But on the other hand, there might be people who read about this and go, oh, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, for sure.
So, also pretty cool, Charlotte Flair. She's down at the WWE Performance Center rehabbing from her tearing everything imaginable in her left knee. She looks great. The mobility's there. It looks like the flexibility's there. This is fantastic. This is from her own Instagram. She looks like she'll be back sooner rather than later. Tonight is SummerSlam, so maybe there's a surprise as she shows up tonight. But she'll be back for the premium live events in the fall, it seems. So it'll be a good 9 months or so that she'll be out if she can come back sort of end of September, October, somewhere in there, maybe by Survivor Series. But she looks great. fantastic. Good news. Do you think there's a place for her right away in the upper echelons of the women's division when she's ready to come back?
Honestly, as hot as the women's division always is, I feel like she's talented enough to get right up there again. She's held the title forever. She's been away for a while, which always is a big advantage for the wrestlers. Like, I never remember when Randy Orton was gone for a long period of time. And then he came back, and it was like he was so fresh as a result of him coming back. So I hope the same would happen to Charlotte. And the way she's moving around looks like it'll be sooner rather than later, right? I mean, she's getting around pretty good in those videos.
I'm going to take the opposite and say that I think it's very crowded at the top of the women's division in WWE. They're going to have to do more than just play her music, have her come out, and bam, she's got a title shot.
Yeah.
Because the last time she came back, that's basically what they did.
They really did.
She came in right after Ronda Rousey defeated Raquel Rodriguez on an episode of SmackDown. And, suddenly Charlotte Flair's got an impromptu match and beats Ronda Rousey right there on SmackDown. I think they're going to have to do more than just play her music and have her walk out on the entrance.
I forgot about that. That was kind of a nightmare with Ronda Rousey as the champ because everyone around her was so good and she was just such a huge liability.
They don't have that problem right now.
they don't have someone that's a champ that's like, man, this person is not ready and shouldn't have the title. But yeah, no, you're right. It might be that the division is so much stronger than when she came back last time. She might have to be like Natalya out there, just wrestling good matches and taking losses. Who knows?
Or perhaps like Randy Orton in this comeback where, they got to find something for him to do, but he's not going to be just hanging around the world title all the time.
No, yeah. He'll be like doing some tag stuff and he'll be in the mid card.
Sure. And anything where, keep them on screen. They're talented performers. But yeah, the top of the picture doesn't need Charlotte Flair desperately like maybe they did a couple of years ago. Speaking of people who are probably thankful that Vince McMahon is gone, The Ringer had a wonderful write-up on Michael Cole, how Michael Cole got over, tracing his career as the guy that started as a backstage interviewer to a play-by-play guy who people hated because he was replacing good old JR and everybody liked Jim Ross.
Right.
To being the guy that Vince McMahon would just yell in his ear from gorilla position all freaking show. In this story on The Ringer here, they go back and mention that the writer of this article went to a Raw and sat there at gorilla position, and Paul Levesque and Bruce Pritchard only one time gave Michael Cole something to say on air, and it was basically just remember to talk about this. They weren't trying to feed him lines. It was just a reminder. Now, I don't know if they were doing that because they knew the reporter was there and they were on their best behavior, but it seems like everybody involved is saying that, Michael Cole's good enough to do this without somebody yelling at him and trying to make him a ventriloquist dummy.
Yeah, I think all the announcers are, right? I mean, you can maybe feed them notes, but not like yell at them as they're talking. It must be insane.
Well, especially Michael Cole. Cole trained as a broadcaster at the University of Syracuse inside Mike Tirico and Iron Eagle. This guy was trained to do this.
Right. Yeah.
It's not like he's just a former wrestler who's got nothing to do. Like, hey, you were pretty good at promos. Why don't we make you a commentator?
Yeah.
This is a guy who trained in commentary and then got into pro wrestling. He's been, as he says, playing a character every week for 27 years. And people know further down the card than Cody Rhodes have said that, he's my guy here as I go through this. Let's see here. Cole and Rhodes are creative partners. Every wrestler who wants to climb the card wants to find their pairing on the headset, Cody Rhodes told me. Rhodes' father, Dusty, had the late Gordon Soley. Stone Cold had JR. Michael Cole has been my guy. So Cole has really won over the locker room, the fans, and everybody. This is a great story. There are also some videos embedded here from the WWE of they have a little camera they set up at the announce table where they show the announcers' reactions. There's some fun stuff here of watching Michael Cole watch wrestling.
Yeah, I've seen
just some of
those.
his reaction. There's a couple of these videos in here. It's fun stuff if you got a few minutes. Speaking of a few minutes, let's rapid fire since the premium live event tonight is starting. WWE is up in the ratings heading into SummerSlam without Roman Reigns. Are you surprised? I am surprised.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess it's one of these things where people are into the product and they're plugged in for a while here. So up 9% from last year over year.
That's Raw. SmackDown up 17 in the key demo.
Okay.
And SmackDown's the one that doesn't have Raw anymore. That doesn't have Roman Reigns anymore.
Yeah. That's crazy.
I was surprised. It bodes well for the company, right?
Yeah, especially because you would only imagine that ratings tend to go down as more and more people are moving away from TV. Like it's becoming almost antiquated to go by ratings, but to see them go up is only a good sign that they're even able to capture more of the market share as the market share is limiting itself, right?
Right, yeah. Market share for TV is going down. Especially USA is a traditional cable company, and SmackDown is on Fox currently, not for much longer. But Fox is an over-the-air broadcaster.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, as those media shrink, WWE is still rising. You can see why WWE, especially in pro wrestling overall, is such a hot commodity for broadcasters now, and even webcasters and streaming services. These big money deals are coming because this is one of those products that is retaining audience.
Or for people that talk about it and do live streams, for example.
Absolutely. One more, a little bit of kayfabe here. This comes to us from WrestleZone. Sami Zayn, if Braun Breaker stays the path, he'll be a complete player. They've got their match tonight at SummerSlam. Who's winning?
Braun Breaker. I think I have Braun Breaker winning the IC title tonight. It's tough because we only saw Braun Breaker on SmackDown do squashes. Yep. So he's an incomplete. I have no idea what he can or can't do in the ring. Yep. I know that he's kind of taken on his father's role with the barking. I mean, barking is such a good idea. Man, like how hasn't someone barked since Steiner, Rick Steiner, that is?
Maybe it was too tied to Rick Steiner and nobody wanted to be accused of doing a Rick Steiner ripoff.
Yeah, right.
Here's maybe the one guy who can do it.
Yeah, an adult man barking all day, every day. The crowd starts barking. It's good.
He's the dog. Rick Steiner was the dog-faced gremlin. Before him, there was the junkyard dog, JYD. There's been some feline junkyard dog-faced gremlin, nitty-gritty pit bull type of things in wrestling. I like it. I like his gimmick, and like you said, if it turns out that he can work well, he's got a character. He knows how to play to the crowd. If he can wrestle, then yeah, the sky's the limit for him. Sami Zayn, I agree with him, and I think Braun Breaker wins tonight, but we'll see.
We shall see.
SummerSlam is on right now. Anything else to say before we switch over here? We're not going to broadcast live a watch along because that's their Peacock's property. We don't want to get strikes or anything. We're going to just back away, watch SummerSlam, and then come back for the recap live stream after the premium live event.
We're doing part 2 tonight after as a recap. So yeah, it's SummerSlam time. Let's go ahead and watch. And thank you all for joining. Really appreciate doing this quick fire cheap heat dumb, and have a great rest of your